Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bible Tidbits YouTube channel. I'm glad you joined us today. And today I wanted to come with you with a real short, quick video. And I just want to say why I think you should read A Pilgrim's Progress. This book was written in the mid 1600s by a man by the name of John Bunyan, and he wrote it from prison, actually. He was thrown in prison, and he was told that he could leave as long as he would say he would no longer preach Christ. So he was in prison for quite some time because he refused to say he would not preach Christ anymore. But in there, he wrote what is one of the most beautiful stories that for a Christian outside the Bible. When you get outside the Bible, this is one of the most best-selling books, Christian books especially, outside the Bible ever. And it is a book that just so encapsulates the Christian journey through life in the form of this allegory. And it's so deeply saturated with Scripture. You can see him pulling from scriptural ideas and thoughts, and it just puts it beautifully into this story. And actually, in reference to this, I have a reference on the back of this written by C.H. Spurgeon. It says, "Read anything of his, and you will see that it's almost like reading the Bible itself. He has read it till his whole being was saturated with Scripture. And though his writings are charmingly full of poetry, yet he cannot give us his Pilgrim's Progress without continually making us feel and say, why? This man is a living Bible." So Spurgeon says that this book, it just is so saturated with the Bible, you can tell that this man, John Bunyan, who wrote it, was deeply saturated with the Bible. And Spurgeon once said that A Pilgrim's Progress is a book that he reads every single year. So, with that, you can see, and Spurgeon had amazing illustrations in his sermons and stuff. So, you can see how something like this was something he continually turned back to because it continually helped him in that endeavor. So, but this book, what the premise of it is that the main character's name is Christian. And as you can see, it's an allegory. So, he is walking through the Christian life. It's Christian's life. And in this book, Christian goes through this path and he's on his way to the celestial city. So he is walking the way to the celestial city. He begins the story with a deep burden on his back that he is carrying. And then he comes to this moment where it's the come to Christ moment. And this burden is cast off as the burden of sin. And then he embarks on this great journey. And there's lots of people along the way. There's a friend named Faithful. There's the Slough of Despondency. And just things like that that just really illustrate what is going on in his life, the difficulties, but they're all illustrations for our own lives. As we go through the Christian life, we are met with, faithful people. We're also met with some difficult people, and we're met with temptations and difficult situations. And that's what Christian goes through in this story. And I think you should read this because I really think you will be built up by it. I know whenever I read it, I enjoy that aspect of seeing him go through these difficulties and seeing how they relate to my own difficulties. And I can learn from them, learn from the scriptural principles that we find throughout the book. Even in this edition and many editions, I have scripture references in the margins. And so I encourage you, if you read this, go look those up when you're in those sections just to fully deepen yourself in the scriptures, because John Bunyan he's a poetic man, and he's masterfully made this story to reflect a deep knowledge of scripture. And so whenever we're turning to scripture and we're reading this, I think it's something that can build us up. And especially if you're a preacher or teacher, I think it helps us to make better illustrations. I think that's why Spurgeon read it so much. But there's a reason this book is one of the greatest books in history, most best-selling books in history. The only thing that I think has a beat last time I checked was the Bible. Now, there might be something else there, and it might depend on what survey you look at. But it is a book that is so scripture saturated. It's so insightful into the Christian life. And I know that you will be built up, you'll be edified by reading it. There's lots of different editions. This is the Banner of Truth edition. It's my personal favorite, but I will link some below. This one's oftentimes sold out, but I'll have links down below where you can get A Pilgrim's Progress. You can also get it in modern English, so I'll have a modern English edition linked below if that would be your preference. And you can get them dirt cheap too. The modern English one I'm going to put below, last time I checked, was only $5 or $6 for a paperback. And that was actually the first copy I read of it, was the modern English edition, and it's fantastic. So this is a little different. This might be something different from what you're used to, you know. I know personally, I don't read much fiction. I read a lot of theology books, and I mean, none of them are fiction. Biographies, things like that, and of course, the Bible I read more than anything. But this is one fiction book I go to a lot, and I think if you're like me, step outside that comfort zone and get into the Pilgrim's Progress and get away from some of those deeply analytical theological books and read this fiction book, and I think you'll benefit your reading of theology from it. Also, if maybe you're a primary fiction reader, read this one just because it's so deeply saturated with scripture. And I know you'll enjoy it if you're a fiction reader. I know anybody that reads this book will enjoy it. So check the links below, pick you up a copy of this book, and be built up by it. So I thank you all for joining me. I hope to see y'all next time.